knowledge-based society is at a crossroads. In an increasingly complex world, the answers we provide to the most pressing questions of society, culture, science, and technology will determine the future of our civilization. Sharing knowledge and exchanging best practice on the cutting edge of rapid technological progress is crucial to the success of knowledge workers. Artists anticipate social change and can help develop new ways of looking at the world. Creative, interdisciplinary approaches are essential to nourishing and safeguarding our full potential for innovation. The desire for exchange and new networks is inherent to the process of learning and the development of groundbreaking ideas. This is vividly captured in the web-like structure of Thomas Saraceno's work Flying Garden. The oeuvre of the Argentinian-born artist explores themes of sustainability and technological solutions that can change our world for the better. It therefore resonates with the EPO's art collection, which offers unique encounters of contemporary art with science and technology.
The work at EPO is an assembly of inflatable pillows or enclosed of air. It looks like a proton, a neutron, a multicellular organism which is float there. I work a lot with spiders. I feel like they are part of me. I think it's nice to see clarity in complex things, being in peace when you don't understand all. That's the things very beautiful. He's saying not be frustrated or have anxieties or feel insecure when you cannot control or dominate the world. No, you just be part of something. Many of the works that I do is try to understand that complexity. Social ecology, mental ecology, and environmental ecology. And then you have to practice all that ecologies to really thinking about innovation. The pattern that I proposed was a different way of how we could be with the air, let's put it that way, fly also. As it was an improvement of certain thermal isolation. We will be able to then lift ourselves up into the air without the use of fossil fuel, without the use of a gas, without the use of solar panels, without the use of batteries, just by directly solar radiation. Air which is inside in this should get warmer than the outside. Now, how this air can get warmer? Directly by the sun radiation. I let the sun burn by itself, and that sun, which is floating a certain distance from us, provide enough sun energy and heat for life on this planet to develop, but also for us to be lifted up.
At the EPO, an international organization with 38 member states, we work on the interface of culture, science, and technology. The EPO art collection promotes wider dialogue with the public on all three spheres of society. It has done so ever since its foundation in 1980, with the support of Germany's federal government and the EPO's member states at that time.
Die Bundesrepublik Deutschland wollte natürlich auch Träger einer europäischen Institution werden. Europa sollte ein sichtbares Zeichen gesetzt bekommen in München. Es gab das Deutsche Museum, das größte technische Museum Europas, hier in München. Es gab das ehemalige preußische Patentamt, nunmehr das Deutsche Patentamt, frisch gebaut, auch in München, hier an der Isar. Und da hat man gesagt, das wäre doch eine wunderbare Trinität, hier jetzt auch das Europäische Patentamt zu haben, der Europäischen Patentorganisation. Und es geht um die Kommunikation. Also Kunst im öffentlichen Raum, auch als politisches Programm der Bundesregierung, und diesmal machten das die Europäer alle mit, ist eine Kommunikation zwischen der Technik und dem freien Spiel der Fantasie.
Today, we remain convinced that contemporary art can stimulate creativity, provide new perspectives, and connect people inside and outside our organization. Trends in science and technology and the fascinating aesthetics of both disciplines are not only reflected in our huge patent databases, they are also registered in the work of a growing number of emerging and established artists worldwide who are passionately challenging the boundaries of design, architecture, art, science, and technology. The classification and documentation of knowledge, a central pillar of the patent system, is a theme that is addressed in Thesaurus by Thomas Feuerstein. At first glance, this photographic print seems to show a bookcase with row upon row of mainly antiquarian reference works. We then realize that the spines of the books display a rather surprising range of keywords, such as algorithm and cybernetics, curiosity and neurosciences, obsession and occultism, soul and server.
Diese Thesaurus-Bibliotheken entstanden so seit Mitte der 90er Jahren immer im Rahmen von größeren Projekten. Weil größere Projekte sind ja wie Knoten, wo bestimmte Fäden zusammenlaufen und wo so als Referenz sich bestimmte Begriffe und Thematiken versammeln in einem Projekt. Im wesentlichen Sinne sind wir von Technologien umgeben und Technologien haben ihren Ursprung in den Wissenschaften. Und insofern ist es naheliegend, sich als zeitgenössischer Künstler auch mit Naturwissenschaft, mit Technologie auseinanderzusetzen. Und mich interessiert natürlich die Kollaboration zwischen diesen Medien, zwischen diesen prozessualen Möglichkeiten, seien es jetzt digitale Algorithmen oder sind es jetzt organisches Material oder lebende Zellen. Wir glauben ja, dass wir eigentlich nur alphanumerisch kommunizieren, symbolisch kommunizieren, so wie ich es jetzt mache über Sprache oder über Bilder, wie man es sonst in Ausstellungen sieht, oder vielleicht noch Objekte in Form von Skulpturen und anderen Referenzen in einer Ausstellung. Und mich interessiert jetzt aber hier, und das ist das Spezifische an bildender Kunst, auch materielle Prozesse, molekulare Prozesse als eigene Sprache mit in die Ausstellung zu bringen. Und ich glaube, das ist eine Qualität von bildender Kunst, die über Jahrhunderte existent war, über Jahrtausende eigentlich. Das ist Teil der Kunstgeschichte und das ist das Spezifische an bildender Kunst. Und da interessiert es mich eigentlich, was sind die Prozesse, die das Material der Skulptur hervorbringen? Was erzählt uns das für eine Geschichte? Und wenn man da reinschaut und reinhört, ist es natürlich eine Geschichte, die mit uns sehr viel zu tun hat, mit unserer eigenen Existenz, mit unserer Vergangenheit der Evolution, mit möglichen realen oder fiktiven Entwicklungen, wohin wir uns bewegen, als Mensch, als Körper, aber als Gesellschaft, Politik und Ökonomie.
Natural science concerns the description, understanding, and prediction of natural phenomena based on empirical evidence and experimentation. The natural sciences use aspects of the formal sciences, such as mathematics and logic, to analyze and structure information about nature as data. In Blossoming, Lee Theringa and Martin van Karlsbeek take a playful approach to the mysteries of nature and cycles of organic life. Early in their artistic career, the EPO invited the Dutch artist duo to decorate the ceiling space in The Hague's cafeteria with their distinctive installations of cast resin, steel, and porcelain. The artwork hovers over the cafeteria, suspended from steel poles, its forms projected onto the walls like a shadow pantomime.
We are curious and looking for something we don't know yet. We look at nature a lot, and like falling leaves, leaves in the corner between buildings, things like that. And there's a lot of information in that, and we try to arrange that, or sort of arrange that in a sculpture, but not arranging in like flower arranging, but it has to be like an accident.
We sort of wanted to be a sculpture as if the wind has blown through. So we look for a moment that the sculpture starts to change.
These shapes happen while we work on them, and sometimes after finishing a sculpture we thought, well, how the hell did we do this? And then we want to do it and try it again. We never succeed.
Quality of space and quality of space to be able to think is important for everybody. So a workplace to have nice light, for example, good architecture, and things which make you think are always important. And I think art is something which gives identity to a space, and which you don't need to think it's really beautiful to have some thoughts about it. And when there's interaction between art and the people who walk around, there's already something going on.
With the rise of modernism in the wake of the Industrial Revolution, artists developed new forms of expression during the 20th century. The use of geometric patterns and of light itself as a visual language suggested a new modern way of life and a fascination with the rapid pace of technological developments. With the transformation of society now seen during our age of digital disruption, the works of contemporary artists carry a new relevance. This can be seen in recent additions to the EPO collection of artworks by international artists such as José Loureiro, Esther Stocker, and Marlene Landgren. They juxtapose order and chaos, spatiality and surface, construction and deconstruction. The resulting tensions shape their visual language.
My set out from painting is certainly inspired from geometric abstraction. It is not so much because I want to be formalistic. It's because I want to be clear. So nowadays, it's not so much to be, to be dogmatic about some old ideas, but to use it again as maybe not so much to exclude, maybe more to include. It's like now it's, for me, a possibility to be including instead, to open up, to put in some new visions of mine. Colors for me is, of course, all colors in the world, but it's also a lot about light and darkness. It's also a lot about balancing. It's also a lot about proportions, volume, and most of all, maybe, it's about what happens when things are put together.
Digital transformation also involves cultural change, requiring organizations to repeatedly challenge the status quo and to experiment once again, as well as grow accustomed to continuous learning. The coexistence and cross-fertilization of digital and analog spheres, as well as frictions between them, are also reflected in works in the EPO art collection. Some of the artists find visual inspiration in the internet or use the latest developments in modes of production such as 3D printing. Others challenge our ways of seeing by using old-school methods for the representation of virtual content. The 24-hour sculpture by Peter Salai translates the perception of time into a 3D form. Incorporating op art influences, it innovatively evokes a sense of motion in space.
Ezeknek van egy történetük, miszerint igazából egy absztrakt szobornak tűnnek, de igazából egy működő mechanizmusnak a működését mutatják. Ahogy itt látható ezen az óraszerkezeten, különböző síkgörbék változtathatók át, illetve a körmozgás különböző síkgörbék leírására képessé tehető egyszerű mechanizmusok által. Itt most az óraszerkezet úgy lett átalakítva, hogy a mutató végpontja az ezen a pentagramma útvonalon járjon végig. És igazából a forma, a szobor formája úgy jött létre, hogy ezeket a mozgásfázisokat helyeztem egymásra egy vertikális tengelyen, és emiatt jött létre ez a forma. A mozgásfázisok egymást követik, a tik-tak, fekete-fehér, így váltják egymást, és alakul ki ez a szimmetrikus alakzat. Amiben az az érdekes, hogy ugye akárhogy fordítjuk, mindenhogyan egy úgymond vizuálisan egy jól kinéző formát mutat, a szimmetriája miatt. És igazából egy ilyen az ember egyéni döntés, hogy melyik nap hogyan helyezze el magát a tárgyat. Tehát a matematikai része ennek a dolognak az abból adódott, hogy ugye matematika szép, mint a geometria, tehát ez inkább a geometria része a matematikának. Ehhez nekem valahogy egyrészt mindig egy kérdés volt számomra, hogy valóban csak annyi egy műalkotás, amennyi vizuálisan mutat, tehát hogy valóban ez egy esztétizáló műfaj kell-e, hogy legyen, vagy ki lehet találni mögé olyan történeteket, amik maguktól állítják elő a formát.
Recent studies suggest that displaying original artworks in the workplace can have multiple positive effects on employees. To achieve this, some works rely on the viewer's own visual perception alone. Others promote social interaction or elicit emotional responses, prompt personal associations, or spark the viewer's curiosity. In a highly visually oriented society, images that can make subtle statements about the world in a corporate context have a unique communicative power. Contemporary artists with a broad interest in social structures and social relations beyond the art world itself are therefore particularly relevant for the art collection of the EPO. The presentation of their artworks in the workplace recontextualizes artistic practice and creatively vitalizes the mindset of staff and visitors alike.
When I first visited the Isar building in Munich, about 30 years ago, I came across this blue piece called the Blaue Ritter. And it made my heart skip a beat. It took me back to my childhood. My grandfather was the manager of an iron foundry, and he used to take me to see the iron foundry at work. I used to see the men making patterns out of wood, and then the people who would cast the metal into the molds. There were sparks and bangs and noises flying everywhere. It was magnificent.
It's pleasant to work in a building which has a good atmosphere and gives you a good feeling. And art definitely gives you a good feeling.
For me, it's very inspiring to walk through the floors and to look at the art and then to somehow solve a problem just by getting inspired through the objects of art.
Displaying or installing thoughtfully chosen art in the workplace can elevate people's mood as well as sustain interpersonal bonds between employees and clients.
I think that both these exercises, so art and engineering, they need creativity.
In all human endeavors, there is a piece of art.
Leida and the Swan, a still life with flowers made by Margriet Smulders, intrigued me very much. How was it made? Margriet explained me that she uses a water table with a mirror underneath, causing fascinating abstractions and deformations. A curtain behind it is reflected, creating a wonderful harmony in this piece of art. In the age of Photoshop, this may sound feasible to you, but Margriet Smulders makes this photo in only one take. Herewith, she brings new life in the well-known subject of a still life with flowers.
This motor is a 8-cylinder Ford Cosworth motor. A motor as such is a great invention. And the motor is also a symbol of the industrial age and the mobile world. But here it is plated by a thin and fine chrome plating and therefore became somehow a delicate work of art.
What I really like about this painting is the search for meaning that it inspires in me. It's like seeing a landscape without a clear landscape in it, so you can really imagine and feel and link the dots, let's say, to create your own in your mind. I see it as a timeless piece of art. It's really modern in the way it deconstructs reality, but it also takes advantage from the past, the tradition, for example, of Impressionism in Europe. And that is really something that relates to EPO, I think.
L'art sur le lieu de travail est un grand privilège, comme cette installation lumineuse de l'artiste Beat Zoderer intitulée Farborgel, conçue spécialement pour cette cafétéria. Une explosion pareille de couleurs donne immédiatement de la bonne humeur. Prendre ses repas dans une atmosphère détendue, un peu magique, donne une dimension supplémentaire à une journée de travail.
Diese Skulptur von Markus Stangl hat mich immer schon angesprochen. Es ist für mich faszinierend zu verstehen, wieso dieses Gebilde aus diesen wuchtigen Steinquadern nicht einfach in sich zusammenfällt. Es zeigt Spannung, aber es ist trotzdem filigran und schön. Die Kunstwerke beim Europäischen Patentamt befinden sich auch in den Innenhöfen der Gebäude. Hier befindet sich auch eine Kinderkrippe, hier finden Sommerfeste statt. Wenn die Kinder spielen, dann laufen sie um die Statuen herum. Sie werden integriert in das Spiel. Man kann sie berühren, sie stehen im Mittelpunkt.
Diese silbrige Struktur mit der blauen Farbe als Kontrast, das hat auch was sehr fast Edles für mich. Wenn man sich darauf einlässt und ein bisschen auf das Werk schaut und auf die Wand, finde ich persönlich eben, dass es fast so eine Dreidimensionalität ergibt. Es sind Studien wohl von Plankton. Er schlägt die Brücke von Wissenschaft und andere Künstler hier von Technik zur Kunst und dadurch integriert sich das unheimlich harmonisch und toll harmonisch hier in unser Arbeitsumfeld ein.
I love the collection of the EPO. It has a common language. It is a technical reflection of the world outside. In that sense, we can compare the artists with inventors. They bring an added element. And in the case of the EPO art collection, it's a very technical element. And this is the concept, in my view, that makes the European Patent Office collection unique.
In this piece, we can clearly see the connection between math and art. The title, as you know, it's number 1 of 65. We have one big star, our number 1. We also have 2 big triangles. Each triangle is composed by 3 angles, hence 6 core angles in total that you can see on the outer shape of this star. From the perspective of the viewer, there are just 5 objects. We have one big central object, which is the green triangle. We also have 3 smaller orange triangles on the sides. And we obviously have the white canvas, which in itself is an object.
Ich frage mich natürlich bei diesen beiden Bildern, was machen die beiden Kinder dort im Wald? Es ist so faszinierend. Und jedes Mal, obwohl ich sie gut kenne, entdecke ich ein neues Detail. Die Farbe, die Landschaft, die Bäume. Also es ist einfach so toll. Die rote Farbe macht, finde ich, diese beiden Bilder irgendwie noch intensiver.
Parmi toutes les œuvres exposées à l'Office, j'aime particulièrement l'œuvre de Marie-Thérèse Vaconssin, devant laquelle nous nous trouvons. Car j'ai souvent observé, au jour le jour, c'est les jeux de lumière, les jeux de couleurs dans tous ces prismes, sans voir que certains de ces prismes indiquent tout simplement l'étage dans lequel nous nous trouvons. Belle leçon d'humilité pour un ingénieur passionné d'art qui pensait savoir regarder et au moins compter.
When I joined the EPO, I was surprised by the investments made by the office to decorate our place of work. I thought about how much value the office attaches to art and its social function.
There is a reality created by the artist, and one can wonder, is it islands? Is it clouds? And it's in the eyes of the beholder. Everybody can make their own story.
The brain is a wonderful machine because it can really, the same brain can really give birth to a piece of art and to a very nice piece of engineering, which is also somehow artistic in its way.
Der Blick von einem selbst wird auch manchmal wieder auf so banale, also wie Dinge wie Natur gelenkt. Und eigentlich haben wir das alles. Wir vergessen es nur, weil wir oft so absorbiert sind in der Arbeit. Aber ich glaube, das ist eben auch die Aufgabe von Künstlern, dass sie uns Dinge ein bisschen bewusster machen und wirklich unsere Aufmerksamkeit wieder auf solche Dinge lenken.
In all your work, and also in the grayer part of your work, you need a creative motor, so to speak, something which invites you to reflect. Art forces you to think twice about things.
For me, art is emotion. So if it touches me, if it touches my heart, if it brings an emotion, then it's genuine art for me.
We produced this film to highlight the importance of art in the workplace at the EPO. But the artworks are not only intended to inspire staff, we also want to give the broader public an insight into our unique commitment to culture and make people all over the world curious to explore the EPO art collection. We look forward to a time when the COVID-19 pandemic becomes a thing of the past, and everyone who wishes to do so can once again view the collection in person. The international diversity of the collection is still growing. In the light of the latest ideas in society, we wish to continue discussing the stories that are shaping the world today.